So 2 weeks ago, we started a series called Everyday Hero. The very first week, I challenged you to recognize that God has called every single one of us to be a hero. And last week, we talked about the first half of a verse that says that we are to deny ourselves and set aside our own desires, our own stuff, to put others' needs before our own. Today, Chris is going to take us into the second half of that verse, and he's going to help us see what the potential could be in our lives if we were to take up our cross and follow Jesus. Let's join Chris in the big room for part 3 of Everyday Hero.
Hey, welcome. We are right in the middle of our series, Everyday Heroes, and we've been talking about what it means to be a hero, kind of a weird word. Hey, what I did is I took the deep dive this week, and I've been asking people, I've been Googling some stuff with this question. You've probably had it asked of you or asked it of somebody, unless maybe you're not a geek and then you haven't. But if you could have any superpower, what would you want your superpower to be? People have a lot of views, and by the way, if you start reading about this online, you can be down the rabbit hole for a long time on this subject, and people totally geek out. One of the ones that I found the most interesting was this one, and I even have a little illustration, said the best superpower would be laser eyes, just like my friend Michael there. If you had laser eyes, you know what you could do when you're in traffic and somebody does something stupid? Just zap them. That would be great. Or for all the crazy people at Walmart, zap them. That would reduce the population so much. Laser eyes. I'm not sure of all the value, but for those reasons it would be fine. Lots of people said telekinesis, if I could just move things. Something heavy in the way, move it. Something I don't like, move it. The house next door, move it. You telekinesis. Now, probably the number one answer, matter of fact, just talked to somebody and they said this, it's to be able to transport myself somewhere else, flight or teleportation. I could just never worry about how long it takes to get to work. I'd never worry about anything. I would just be there. How cool would that be? Some of you would have been up and running just in time for this today instead of going, hurry up before you turned it on. Maybe that would be your favorite superpower. One person said, and I don't understand this one, the ability to have X-ray vision. I'm not sure why that's so important. I'm not sure I want it. And one even scarier than that is the ability to read people's minds. What a great superpower that would be. I would just say this to you, if you would answer that, be careful what you ask for. Because there's a lot of crazy going on in this world. Be careful what you ask for. You're going to read people's mind. How about this one? This would be my wife's favorite answer. To instantly be ready to go. Like shower, makeup, hair, clothes, ready to go. Give her that superpower. She'd be living large and in charge. That would be her dream come true. For a lot of you, you're like, oh, if I had that, I would only be 5 minutes late to everything I do. Not her, but for you, that might be the case. How about this one? Somebody said omniscience. Omniscience, just to know everything. I'm not sure I agree with that one. Hey, listen, almost all of us know somebody who thinks they know everything. And the truth is, they don't seem like they're doing all that well with it. I'm not sure that one would pay off quite as much. For me, after all of the things we've looked at, the one I decided I would want most is the ability to eat anything, as much as you want, as often as you want, not feel bad, not die, and not get fat. I would take that one. Now, there is a problem. Some of us have lived like we have that superpower, and now we're paying the price for it. So today's message maybe will help us with some of that. Well, anyway, whatever your superpower would be, I want to get down to what is the number one superpower for an everyday hero in today's life. Not just pretend things, not just comic book or action movie, but what is the number one superpower? Last week, Jeremy started us off in a passage in Luke chapter 9, and I want to pick up right where he left off, and we'll just continue going from there. Luke chapter 9, when it starts, Jesus sends out the guys that have been following him, and he gives them power to do all these crazy, amazing, wonderful things. And they go out and they're killing it. And people are noticing. People are like, oh, you're one of Jesus' disciples. That guy, we like that guy. And they did miracles and they told people things that they never thought they would hear that made sense to them. It was huge. And then we have the story of Jesus feeding thousands. We call it feeding of the 5,000. There were many more people than that there. But thousands of people that came sick and broken, and he healed them, and hurting, and he made them better, and hungry, and he fed them. And it's about this time that life was good. For the disciples and for Jesus, he was at his peak of popularity. If you were a politician, this is when you say, just don't lose the last debate, and we've got this thing won. This is if you're an athlete, you say, hey, we're on a roll, just get through this last game. Jesus right in the middle of that, things are good. Everybody's saying, put me in. I want to follow that guy. He is amazing. How could you not want that? And right in the middle of all of that, we get to the passage where we're going to land today in Luke 9, and this is where we'll start reading. Then Jesus said to the crowd, if any of you want to be my follower, you must give up your own way. The words we read last week in a different version, you must deny yourself. When you've got people all excited, this is not the first thing to say to them. Hey, you know what you got to do is give up your own way, because we all love our own way. That's why it is our way. He said, if you're going to follow me, here's something you need to know. Just a little secret. I know you've seen these guys and you've heard me talk, but if you want to follow me, it starts with this. You've got to give up your own way. He goes from there, and as if that was just an appetizer to get him started, the next thing he says, you give up your own way, and then take up your cross, and then he throws in one more word, daily, and follow me. You got to give up your own way. That's a starting point. And then I want you to take up your cross daily. Hey, the word cross means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. In their world, cross meant nothing like what it means for us. We have people who wear a cross around their neck and it looks cool. People who have it on their earrings. People who have it on their t-shirt or on their bumper sticker or on their whatever. And even people who get what the cross was, it has such positive connotation for us today. As a person who's a follower of Jesus, I look at the cross as this horrible, wonderful thing. But in their day, there was no wonderful. People didn't picture even a landmark driving around. There's a couple places we've been in the country where they have these giant crosses, just you see them miles away, and people drive up and they may say a prayer. It may be something meaningful for them, whatever that's like, but it's just this big landmark. The cross wasn't a big landmark. The cross just meant pain. It just meant humiliation. It just meant suffering. It was the worst of the worst. It was just two nasty pieces of wood that got stuck together and caused the worst day of everyone who knew that person's life. The cross was horrible. It was wretched. It wasn't a word you threw around in normal conversation. And so for him to say, take up your cross, why would I have a cross? If it's me taking up a cross, that means I'm going to die. That means pain. And I don't like any of that. So he starts with give up your own way. Well, maybe I could do that because his way looks pretty good, but now we've gone to this. But he doesn't finish with that. He begins to explain it. And sometimes when you explain things, it gets more confusing. He said, if you try to hang on to your life, you'll lose it. But if you give your life for my sake, you'll save it. He goes a little Yoda on him on this. He goes, if you try to hang on to it in the long run, you're going to lose it anyway. So the better option is give your life. Don't give your life away, but give it for my sake. That's pretty key in this. And then you'll save it. That action of giving your life for my sake means that you'll save it. And then he finishes with this. He asks the question, all of that in mind, and what do you benefit if you gain the whole world? What would happen if you made all your decisions in life, if you took all of your steps in life, if you moved through life just the way you wanted to, and you did it, you gained the whole world, you had stuff and people recognized you and applauded you. What would happen if you did that, but are yourself lost and destroyed? What if you had a lot? What if you did a lot, but in the end you lost yourself and were destroyed? What if you gained everything but somehow lost your soul, who you are? What good would that have been? Now, we read through that really fast, and it is loaded with meaning. I'm not sure I'm smart enough to get all of the meaning. Matter of fact, I spent the last 2 or 3 weeks kind of just in my brain talking about what does that look like in real life. What I don't want to do is get lost in a lot of Christianese, in a lot of cliche, because some people have heard the cliche so many times, it's not even meaningful. I don't want to do that. As we dig into it, can we just start with it? The first thing he said to the crowd, you got to give up your own way if you want to follow me. Giving up our way is what it means to become a Christian. It's when we reach a point that we say, in and of myself, I am not enough. That I am broken, that I have sinned, that I have done wrong. And I require a savior, someone to save me. Sometimes we call him a savior. I require something that no matter how hard I try, if this is righteous or good, and this is me, there is nothing I can do to get from here to there outside of someone helping me. I give up my way and I trust you. Denying yourself, that is becoming a Christian. Maybe we would say it this way, because we've been talking about it the last couple of weeks. Jeremy has mentioned this phrase. He said, the full life you're looking for is not found in infancy. When I reach a point where I say, hey God, I will place my trust in you. I no longer control my life. I trust you. Would you forgive? Would you save? Would you change? Would you give me what I can't give myself? That's called birth. We would call that infancy, and there's nothing wrong with it. It almost sounds demeaning. But we're all born. Like, you wouldn't be watching this today if you hadn't been. So it's not a demeaning thing. It's only a demeaning thing if you stay that way. We expect people who are 2 months old to act 2 months old. But over the long haul, we don't expect people to stay that way. Sometimes people do. Sometimes we meet people that are 82 that still act 2. We all got somebody in the story you just go, seriously. But the problem is this, the full life we're looking for, it's not found in our infancy. And for a lot of us, that's what we talk about, is the day I found faith or I came to faith. And that is my story. But then our faith journey hasn't been one that we find a lot of joy in. Sometimes people feel like, you know what, all these promises in the Bible, it ain't playing for me. I'm trying to do all the right things and say all the right things and go all the right places, but I'll be honest, when the Bible talks about this fulfillment that's supposed to come on the inside, I am not experiencing that. And the full life we wanted will never be found in our infancy, it's found in our maturity. Maturity, simply put, is not just living longer. That's age, not maturity. Maturity is found with growth, with personal growth, with spiritual growth. It is found when we are becoming what God created us to become. And so let's just say this. At the beginning, he talks about us handing off our way. Then we go to this subject that we have to move beyond birth towards something else. He adds this to it. Now that that has happened, you've given up yourself. Now take up your cross daily and follow me. That coming to Jesus is all about the cross for us, that he died on my behalf. Coming to Jesus is about his cross. For us living out Christianity, for those of us living out faith, it becomes about taking up our cross daily and following him. It's a big difference. There's a huge change in those things. The bigger question, though, is what does it mean to take up my cross? Here's one of the things we figure out, and this is a horrible sales pitch, that an everyday hero has the superpower of dying. Put that one on the big screen. Show the superhero, I have a hammer and I can crush. I can fly. I can move across the world in a flash. The other way you can use the word flash. Those are great superhero powers. Here's the superhero power Jesus says we need the superheroic power of dying. It means we've got to put to death some things inside of us that if we don't, will eat us up and will keep us from the life we want. It means there's some stuff going on inside of us that left to itself will keep us from knowing the life we were intended to have and will never be the best version of us. Maybe we could say it that an everyday hero has the heroic power of dying. And maybe that means this: becoming a Christian is about Jesus' cross. Listen, let's add one more thing. Living as a Christian is about my cross, but taking up my cross, it means daily, repetitively surrendering my agenda. What does it mean to take up my cross? It means that over and over and over, I have to surrender my agenda. Maybe we could say it this way. If I were to say my life is like $1,000, just count my life as equal to $1,000. It may not be worth that. Some of you probably think it's not. But if it's like at salvation, it's like me putting $20 of that in. Now for a lot of us, it feels like we put our whole $1,000 and now my life has changed. The problem is it's not true. Now my destination has changed. Now God is beginning to change my heart. Now I can have options that I couldn't have. I don't have to live under the weight of things that I did before. I don't have to, but it doesn't mean I don't. But it is a starting point. But it's like the other rest of the $1,980 I get in pennies. There's 9,800 pennies. There's not that many here, but we're letting this represent 9,800 pennies. And the rest of my life is me taking up my cross daily, repeatedly. The truth is, coming to Christ is amazing. It's something that if you've never done, it is a necessity for you to know the life God made you for. But beyond that, it means day after day. It would probably be more represented just a penny at a time of me bearing my own agenda, dying to my own agenda because there's a better agenda for my life. It is seemingly small things that I have to say, if I don't kill this agenda in my life, my agenda will take me where I do not want to end up. It is one penny at a time. He said, come to me, give up your own way, pick up your cross daily and follow me. And then he said, if you try to hang on to your life, you're going to lose it. But if you give your life for my sake, you'll save it. Maybe a better way of saying that is we have to understand about agendas and what God's agenda for us is. I don't know if you've ever used on your phone, if you ever used navigation. I like to use Waze. That's the one in my family we use a lot. You can kind of program in where you want to go. Sometimes when I program it in, I can even do this. I can be traveling somewhere and we're going to have to eat fast food because we're always in a hurry when we're traveling for some reason. We'll say, hey, where's there a Culver's? We like Culver's. You guys like Culver's? We love Culver's. There's not one where I live. And so we'll program, and you can even tell it while I'm on my trip. I want to find the Culver's, and it'll find the Culver's. It'll take you to there, and while you eat, it'll sit and tell you to turn left to get back on your route, and then you can get back on your route, and it'll take you where you want to go. You know the problem with navigation, one is you got to trust the navigator. You've got to believe when it tells me to turn left, I'll turn left. It's the best thing for me to do. The problem is somebody's had a bad experience and decided it doesn't work, but you've got to trust the navigator. But one of the things that's great about Waze, or whatever yours is it will often do whatever it takes, or it'll say, hey, there's a wreck up ahead, or here's one, there's construction up ahead, do you want to reroute? And it'll say if you go through the construction, it's going to take you 12 minutes. If you go around the construction, it'll only take you 6 minutes. Which do you want to do? In my life, I tend to always try to avoid the construction. One of the weird things about following Jesus is he does not always try to follow or always try to avoid the construction. Matter of fact, sometimes he puts us right in the middle of construction. As a matter of fact, most of the time in our life, he is in the middle of construction for us. He is trying to build something into us. What I want is convenience, and what he wants is character in me. And he knows that character is never grown in convenience. And so often, for me to follow him and for me to kind of put to bed or to crucify or to do away with my own agenda, it's one of those pennies that I have to accept that his agenda often includes construction. Let me give you another one. My agenda is almost always about now or something close to now. When I pray, I often pray, hey, God, help with this thing. Help with the finances. Help with the physical. Help with the next step. Help me understand how to do this better. Help me through this. Often it is, most of the time it is about now or something close to now. I tend to live in the short game. And then I get really frustrated with God if he doesn't comply. How could God not answer that prayer? Why wouldn't he care about that? People say, how could a loving God allow this to happen? And maybe the answer is that a loving God doesn't see life like we see it. Well, why would he allow pain in anybody's life? That's a great question. Just wait for the answer. When you ask that question, wait for the answer, because often pain is how God builds the best things in life. Matter of fact, there would be no new life without pain. Some of you know that from firsthand experience. But when it comes to our faith, when it comes to our spiritual life, there is no life without pain. How could a loving God allow pain into my life? How could a loving God give his son to be crucified? Through pain is where we found peace. It's where we find happiness. It's where we find growth. Well, God is never about the short and the now. He's always about me becoming. He's playing the long game. He is far more concerned in what he's trying to make me than how it feels right now. Man, there's a huge difference. For me to accept that is life-changing. It changes how I get up and how I go to bed. When we say, take up your cross, typically what it means is that I've got to stop living by my urges. I've got to stop living by my feelings. There's never been a day in my lifetime on this earth where feelings got more play. People are angry and people are upset, and people say this all the time. We have so elevated feelings or urges. I am this because this is how I feel. I do this because this is how I feel. I react to that because this is how I feel. And here's the ugly reality. Your feelings are not the most trustworthy sources. My identity can't be based on my feelings. See, here's the problem. People say that, but they don't ever believe that. They don't want people just to be able to live by their feelings, because when my feelings step on your feelings, then your feelings are hurt and you don't like it. If my feelings are, you have a lot and I don't have very much and I'll take yours, then you don't believe people should live by their feelings now. If I were to say, I have urges and those urges are going to hurt you, but it's still, God put those there in me, so I'm going to follow those. If it's going to hurt you or your son or your daughter or your family or your home or the people you love, you would say, hey, get over your feelings. That there are things that rise above that. Taking up your cross means there are urges inside of us. There are things that we're compelled to do. Even as people who follow Jesus, every day there are urges inside of us that if we continue to lean toward, we will never experience the life we were intended to have. Taking up my cross, it is those pennies every day of me saying, man, that is something I want to do. There is something inside of me that says, just do that. But there is a higher power and there's a higher calling, and I will crucify that urge today, another penny on the pile, and I will not live by my urges. There is something better for me in life than just that. I started asking a few people around my world and online this week about some of the things that they struggle with when it comes to urges. What are things you're compelled to do, you just want to do, that maybe you know you have to stop yourself from doing or make yourself do because it needs to happen? I'll just give you a few. Some of them are mine and some of them are other people's. You'll be able to tell. One of them, one person said, Chris, by evening, by dinner time every night, I am so tired. It's a mom with kids. This is a mom with kids I'm talking to. And she said, I am so exhausted mentally and physically. between my job and family and home and all the craziness of life. And what I want to do is just sit down those last couple of hours before the kids go to bed, and I just want to veg out. Give them a screen and say, just stare at that. Let me just say this for all of you parents. I'm not making some sweeping indictment over your kid ever using a screen. You figure that out. I'm not the judger of all parents on how much is too much. You need to be. Somebody needs to be. But she's just saying, sometimes that's all I want to do. I just want to veg and do that. But deep in my heart, I know I may need to take a few minutes and catch my breath. But what I need to do, because I've been away from them all, I need to sit down with them and I need to listen to them. I need to play with them. I need to be present with them, not just in their presence. I need to be present. And she said, for me, I have to crucify that urge. Make sense? It is in me, and it's not a bad thing to want to protect because you're tired. But she said, hey, listen, I know my calling as a mom is higher than anything else, and I want to be present every day in a big way in their lives. Beautifully said, brilliant stuff. For some people, the urge to escape may be a little bit different. For some people, it may be, hey, I just need to grab an adult beverage or 2 or 4 or 7. Or I need to pop something to escape or smoke something or do something. I may need to click on something because my present is overwhelming, and the way I'm going to escape my present is to go do something else. And I'm not judging any one of those things. Listen, my point is not to try to get you to do something. My point is to tell you the truth. And whatever we're using to escape, Jesus said it this way. He said, I want you to come to me when you're overwhelmed, when you're tired and burdened and overwhelmed, and I will give you rest. I want your life with me to be with me. And so when you're overwhelmed, I want to be your escape. But there's this urge inside of me that just says, man, that just feels heavy again. And because I don't do it as often as I should, it feels more difficult. It's easier to click. It's easier to drink it, or tell you one for me, to eat. My practice is this: when I'm really happy, I like to eat, but when I'm really sad, I like to eat. When I'm depressed, eating is the best thing. When I am celebratory, yeah, let's eat. When I'm bored, fill in the blank. When I am, eating is easy. For me, sometimes that's just an escape, and I have to face that. I need to take that cross, not make a decision once in my life and say, no. I need to daily make that decision. That is a challenge. Every one of us have urges in our life that are a challenge that we have to face off with. For some people, you know what yours is. For some people, it's a little bit more of a day. For some people, it's the desire for more. I got to make a little more. I got to have a little bit more, a bigger house, a better car, a better things. We just got to live a little higher. And it's not because we think we're so good. It's just because I want to have that stuff. Maybe it feeds a little something in me and we have that urge. I think for some of us, we will have to die to that and say it's not the most important thing. If it happens, yay. But I can't live my life for that. And here's the truth. Most of us, the stuff compulsion in life, that is an urge we will have to crucify, or it will crucify us. For some people, I just throw this one in because somebody said it to me. They said, Chris, I find myself watching things right now in my life that 5 years ago I would have thought horrible. I find myself watching, and they said, I feel like it is so far beneath the life I want to live. I find myself being entertained by things that caused Jesus' death. I find myself being entertained by the most broken things in existence. And the way I excuse it, this is a great statement, the way I excuse it, it's a lot better than what other people are watching. Their statement to me is, I need to crucify that urge. I need to get rid of that urge. I need to recognize it for what it is, not because of its goodness or its badness. It's just beneath the calling I think God has on my life. How smart is that? All of us have so many of those places. For some people, it may be you're flirting outside of your marriage. I haven't touched any, I haven't done anything, but you know there's these thoughts, there's these little fantasies playing out, and there's this little bit. And the truth is, if somebody would sit and listen to you, you could tell them, hey, if you knew what my marriage was like, you would understand. And you may be right. But understanding is not what's needed, but I know the calling we have when we stand before God and we make those vows to be faithful. That is a higher calling. And even if things aren't where you want them now, that is a urge that has to be crucified daily. To be able to put it aside and say, listen, I don't follow my urges in life, I follow Jesus, and as a result, that's what I'm going to do. For some people, it's playing the power card in a relationship because you can. It's putting that urge down. Sometimes it's the desire to do what's convenient over what is constructive. It's why we do things like saying, the Bible says, don't forsake the coming together to learn. It's what you've done today, even in watching this. There's 1,000 things you could have done this morning or this afternoon or whenever you're watching. There are so many things you could do, but for whatever reason, you chose to prioritize this in this moment. Way to go for that. Because I guarantee for everybody who does, there's an urge to do something else. And that is one more penny of your $1,000 that you're saying, no, I'm playing it. I'm putting it down. I know I could do something else, but maybe there's another level to that. The difference in turning it on and engaging with it are two very different things, and this doesn't make any sense to talk about because if you're not engaged with it, you won't hear me say it right now, but I'll say it anyway. The ability to turn something on and spectate is one thing. The ability to let what God is saying, not me, but I'm not worthy of a lot of listen. What I'm trying to do is represent truth today. And the ability to let God speak to me and me respond and react and adjust my life as a result is a very different thing. There's an urge inside of me. There's like 82,000 thoughts in my mind at any given moment, and the desire to stay focused on that is huge. I have to put that to bed. I have to move on. It's why we serve. There's nothing more like Jesus than we serve other people. It's why we do things like baptism. Baptism is such an unnatural thing. It literally means you put yourself in somebody's hand. It's a bit humiliating, like somebody's going to dunk me in front of other people in a bunch of water. Why? But it is humbling to say that I place myself as one who has chosen to follow Jesus, my old life gone, my new life given to me. It literally is crucifying some of that stuff. It's why we give. The Bible teaches us about tithing, and it's such a ridiculous thing for a lot of people who don't know the benefit or don't know the cause and the reaction from it. But for me, that decision to say I'm going to take and prioritize a portion of what God, a percentage of what God has given me, and the reason I do it is there's this urge within me to hold on to everything and get a little bit more because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And I need that just in case. And my just in case can't be this. My just in case has to be this. Because I know that I've given my life to Jesus and He will care for me. And when I do what He asked me to do, that my provision now is in His hands, not just on my ability to produce income. It's why we do those things. Maybe a good way for us to wrap up today, it would be like this. One of my favorite little pieces of literature or sayings in life is this. Would you read it with me? God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Real quick, that's almost everything. If you could change it, it would be changed. The courage to change the things I can. Typically, that's going to be around you. We typically love to talk about the things we can't change that somebody ought to, and we spend very little time on being courageous enough to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The wisdom to know the difference is the difference in infancy and maturity. That's where it comes from. The longer I live, the more I recognize what I can control, what I can't control, and I have the wisdom to understand there's a difference in the two. It goes on a middle section, living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time. For some of us, we need to understand that is a choice we make. That when I got up today, I have to decide that I will live this day and enjoy this moment. I will not allow all the things in life to steal that away from me. Accepting hardship as a pathway to peace. That's just crazy. Hardship doesn't determine my outcome. As a matter of fact, often God takes us through construction to get to finished product. Taking, as Jesus did, the sinful world as it is, not as I would have it. And then it wraps up with these amazing thoughts. Trusting that you will make all things right. Speaking to God. I trust that right is going to come from you, not from me, if I surrender to your will. It's everything we've talked about today. So I may be reasonably happy in this life. It is not playing the short game. It is saying we can be happy in a broken world, in a broken body, with broken all around us. We can be reasonably happy, but this life is not all of life. This is just the spot where we prepare for eternity. And eternity is life, and I'll be supremely happy with you forever in the next. That is the goal, and it is possible. And it starts with this, that first you have to give up your own agenda, give up your own way. Take your cross and all of those urges and all of those agendas that are yours. And it won't be a one-time decision. And you won't just wake up, and you don't need to tell stories from 20 years ago. It'll be on Sunday. It'll be on Tuesday. It'll be on Fridays that you will wake up, and one by one, when you sense those things in you, that says, I'm going to say that, I'm going to do that, I'm going to jump on that, I'm going to watch that, I'm going to go there, and you just say, I'm better than that. My calling is higher than that. The one who is in me has a plan for me, and it's greater than that, and I will crucify that urge today, and I will do it because every time I do, I'm crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live, but it's not just me living, it's Christ living in me, and that is the goal. So God, help us with that today. Thanks for telling us the truth, even when it's hard to hear. We ask it in your name. Amen.